Passports didn't become standard because travel got easier. They became standard because travel felt dangerous, and governments reacted quickly. A passport isn't just a booklet, it's permission printed on paper. Stay with me, because the real reason passports took over isn't obvious. It's about control and scale. For most of history, ordinary people didn't travel far. Travel was expensive, slow, and dangerous. But here's the surprising part. In many places, you often didn't need a modern passport. You might need a letter of introduction or approval from local authorities. But universal, standardized travel documents weren't common, not for most people. Borders existed, of course, but borders weren't always checkpoints. Many states cared more about what entered a country than who entered. Controlling goods was easier than controlling people, so customs often mattered more than identity. Then something changed. Not one thing, but a stack of pressures. Technology made movement faster, cities grew, and economies connected. People started moving in bigger numbers, and that changed the state's problem. When movement scales up, governments ask one question: who are you, and why are you here? This is the first key point. Passports aren't about travel, they're about identification. A state can't control movement if it can't identify people. So passports rose alongside mass identity systems, names, records, registries, and documents. Over time, those records became databases, and databases made control scalable. Now you might think passports were invented for safety. That's only partly true. Passports also manage labor and migration. They shape who belongs and who doesn't. A passport is a filter. It influences who gets in and who stays out. So when did passports become truly unavoidable? Here's the real trigger: war. Large wars create chaos. They create spies, deserters, and refugees. They also create fear, and fear is when strict systems are built fast. During major conflicts, states need to know who is crossing borders. They need to stop enemy agents. They need to track suspects and control information flow, so they tighten documents and normalize inspection. They demand papers. They create checkpoints. And suddenly, identity becomes a border rule. But the biggest shift wasn't only wartime control, it was what happened after. When war ends, systems don't fully disappear, they get repurposed. Once a government builds a tool that increases control, it tends to keep it. It rebrands it as normal administration. Now here's the weird part of passports. They make movement permission-based. Before passports, travel was practical. Could you afford it, and could you survive it? After passports, travel becomes political. Can you be approved, verified, and cleared? This is where bureaucracy enters the story. Passports require records, offices, and standards. Standards require enforcement, so passports grow into an entire ecosystem. Applications, photos, stamps, visas, databases, and rules. Each layer makes the system harder to escape. Now here's what most people miss. Passports don't work alone. They work because other systems cooperate: airlines, shipping companies, border agents, and consulates. Employers and banks cooperate too. Your passport works because a whole network recognizes it. That's what makes it a system, not just a booklet. And the moment airlines became mainstream, passports became central. Air travel is fast, and it moves huge numbers of people. It concentrates control at airports. Airports become choke points. Choke points are where identity can be enforced efficiently. Now layer in visas. Visas are the next level of control. A passport says who you are. A visa says whether you're allowed to enter. That creates a permission stack: identity, then approval, then entry. So why did states push passports globally? Because passports make populations legible. If you can register people, you can track them. If you can track them, you can manage them. That affects taxation, policing, conscription, welfare, and voting. Passports connect to the whole administrative machine. This is why passports spread alongside modern nation-states. Nation-states run on categories: citizen, foreigner, resident, visitor. Once those categories exist, enforcement becomes the problem. Passports become the tool. They turn categories into gatekeeping. Now let's talk about inequality, because passports encode power. Not all passports are equal. Some open doors and some close them. A passport is a global status document. It shapes how easy your life is across borders. And it creates a hidden market: citizenship programs, residency permits, and travel privileges. When access becomes scarce, it becomes valuable. When it becomes valuable, people pay for it. So passports don't just control travel, they shape wealth strategies and life plans. Now here's the strangest part. Passports feel natural because they're normal. But they aren't natural, they're modern. They were built under pressure. They were standardized by power. And they were kept because they worked. Systems that work tend to stay. So the real reason passports took over is simple. Movement scaled up, and states needed control. They needed identity at distance. They needed permission at borders. They needed enforcement at choke points. And once the system existed, it locked in. Because every part of the world began depending on it. So next time you hold a passport, don't think of it as a travel accessory. Think of it as a key to a global control system, a system built from fear, administration, and standardization. It made travel easier for some and harder for others, and it changed what it even means to move across the